be an incredibly beautiful time in the landscape and in the garden, especially if you plan for it and then you are ready for all those unexpected surprises. So if you have combined perennials with some annuals, because of course the annuals give you that color during the summer months, and shrubs and some evergreens and perhaps a tree or two, you can create this beautiful subtlety in the landscape, pops of color, differences with seed heads, differences with form in particular. And it's a great time of year also to look at exactly what is the form of the plants you've used in your landscapes. If you look at this grass as an example, it looks like this giant rounded mass, but it also has a great fine texture to it. This is Blonde Ambition, which is one of our blue grommas. You can get sort of a subtle film or a fuzz out of Russian sage. You get chunky, clunky sorts of things out of the sedums, and many of the sedums, especially the ground cover sedums, are going to go into these gorgeous, really interesting winter color. Everything from sort of a chartreusey color to deep burgundy to a very orangey kind of a color. We have a lot of shrubs that give us beautiful seed heads. Viburnums are one of the great examples. If you're lucky enough to have one of the shrub roses that puts on good hips, you might have great hips in the landscape as well. Then we look at some of the ground covers that might stay ever gray or ever silver. We look at evergreens that are either the great big ones that give us the structure behind a landscape or behind the garden, and then sort of their counterpart that might be a weeper or a creeper. They give that solidarity and that structure to the landscape so that you can observe and see all those other beautiful things in front of it or even behind it. It's a great example also of deciding what you want to allow to stand. We talk a lot about cutting back or cleaning up the plants that really are going to seed themselves with abandon all over the place. And that's great if you want your garden or your landscape to become pretty wild and crazy. But if you look right now at what is still standing and sort of doing what you want it to, you can then selectively in the spring or next summer remove or even relocate plants that really have decided they want to be comfortable someplace else. If you look also at how the plants change over time, that's one of the beautiful things about looking at the landscape in the winter. And we have allowed everything to stand. As the shrubs get larger, as the evergreens get larger, we're going to have to do some selective removal or relocation. That's a good thing. So you look at the sweeps and the masses, you look then at the fine, fine detail of some of our wonderful grasses in particular, or the seed heads of the asters, or anything that is fruit-like or berry-like, or the big clunky seed heads of, flower heads of hydrangea that give you all that intrigue and beauty in the landscape in the winter months.